Today's video, we're going to talk about how to carry the GCLID code, i.e. Google Click ID, through multiple page visits on your website. Google Click ID is a unique code, if you don't know already, that Google gives every ad clicker to identify them in their system. If you know about offline conversion tracking, that is, if you want to track something that happens after the ad click that doesn't necessarily happen on your website, that you identify about that ad clicker, such as they were a qualified lead, they bought, whatever, and you want to tell Google about that information later on, that this particular person has shown that they are a good company, prospect, lead, whatever, as long as you have this so-called Google Click ID, you can give it back to Google and Google says, hey, I know who that person is. And then they can tell you what campaign that particular person came from, what they typed in, what audience they came from, what ad they clicked on, where they're from geographically, male versus female, on and on and on. All of this system is predicated on this unique Google Click ID, which is almost like a serial number that's tied to every ad click inside Google's system. What you do to track sales that occur through the phone or sales that might have occurred offline, once they came into your physical store or whatever, grab the Google Click ID once they initially hit your website, if you will, and call and fill out the form. And then later on when that buys up to 90 days in the future, because you can track it up to 90 days, you can give that Google Click ID back to Google. And so you capture that Google Click ID from when the user fills out the form or calls initially, if they do, of course. You store it, and then if that basically like what we'll do at our advertising agency, when that person does buy, whether that be a day later, a month later, or whatever, we basically once a month look at all the customers that come through our business. We compare that to the Google Click IDs that we have, and the ones that match up, we give back to Google. So naturally, when someone fills out the form, you're going to want to get all the form details and the Google Click ID. So in that, ultimately once a month, if you're going to follow our process, like I do it here, which you don't have to do it my way, but when you look at all the customers that came through and what their names are, you can compare that customer's name to the name that you had on your contact form. And then obviously with that, then now you'll have the Google Click ID that you need to get back to Google to be able to see exactly where that customer came from, what campaign, keyword, and so on and so forth. In terms of phone calls, you can do the same thing. If the person calls in, you're using a call tracking program like Callrail being the one that I would recommend and use on all our campaigns. When that person calls in, that Google Click ID is picked up by the call tracking program itself. And then later on, once a month, when we're trying to look at all the sales that came in so we can give that information back to Google, we go through all the call recordings, listen to the call recordings, because people usually say who they are on the call recordings, and compare that name with the customers that are on our customer list. And then with that, click to see the Google Click ID for that call recording, because it'll have it saved/stored there, and then give that Google Click ID back to Google, okay? Now, what this video is about, though, is about telling you that if a person gets to your website, because ultimately this Google Click ID, the way that you get it in the first place, it's in the user's URL. So if your landing page is example.com/landing page, that user, after clicking on your ad, will actually say /landing page, GCLID equals, and then a string of characters and numbers, which is the Google Click ID itself. And your form, if you set up your form to grab the Google Click ID, it's actually going to look at the URL on the user's computer. And you set that up as a so-called hidden form field that you can't necessarily, it's a field that you can't see on the form that is going to send the Google Click ID. The Google Click ID script that you have will pull the GCLID out of the user's web browser in the URL there in the place that it's normally at. In terms of a phone call, and the phone call tracking, by the way, Callrail is going to look in the same place. It's just going to use a different method to grab the Google Click ID when the call comes in. Where people get confused a lot of times, if they are going to get in this process, they say, or maybe they don't even think about it, because the main thing with Google ads or any kind of ads you're running on Facebook or Bing, it's all predicated on machine learning now and then data. What works and what doesn't work to get your more results on your ads over time. Because it'll pick up micro trends such as people that are of a certain geography, age, hobbies, whatever, that match your customers you have coming through, that these systems can then set up your ads to show up more for, and then taking budget away from stuff that normally doesn't match a customer in terms of hobbies, traits, whatever. But the more clean and the more volume of data that you pick up to give to the ad systems to get you more results, the more results you can expect out of the platforms. And so more than half of the value of running ads is just data collection that tells you and drills in exactly on who's a customer, who's not, who's a big customer, who's a good lead, whatever. Knowing that you want to get the most data possible, because the better data, the more of it you get, the better, the quicker you're going to get results, and the more results you're going to get from these ad platforms, including Google. If somebody gets to your website naturally, and that Google Click ID is in the web end of the URL on their browser, and then they go to visit a second page on your website, what you'll notice is that Google Click ID is not in the URL bar anymore. You can see, and then if that person gets to that second page and then fills out the form on that second page, now your hidden form field on your form isn't going to have the Google Click ID, even though that user was from Google. And then if they buy, you're not going to be able to upload your sale into Google Ads. So what you need to do in order to have the most data possible, or just to do it right, is you need to capture that Google Click ID in a cookie on the user's browser, so that when they fill out a form, and it doesn't matter if it's on the second page, fifth page they go to, whether they leave and come back a week later and fill out the form, that Google Click ID will still be in with the form contact details in the spot that it's supposed to be at for capturing your Google Click ID. And the same thing with your phone calls. Because, I mean, a lot of people in many arguments all the time with different prospective clients when they're starting out. I've got to educate them on a lot of stuff, misnomers that people don't know about. One of which is people don't understand and expect that most people that buy aren't going to buy on the first visit of your website, which is why remarketing, follow-up ads is really, really important if you're going to really crush it online. Because of that, if you're not tracking people that they buy on subsequent visits to the website, you're only going to get half of your sales tracked ultimately. So this is a very important thing to actually have done. That is capturing that user's Google Click ID in a cookie on the user's browser, so that you'll have it regardless if they come back later and buy or turn into a lead, so that you have it regardless of how many pages they visit or how many times it takes before they ultimately turn into a lead even itself. For the most part, in terms of leads themselves, people are going to turn into a lead right away, or they're not. They're not going to come back later, and then that in and itself is less important, as is though many people are going to visit multiple pages on your site before they are going to turn into a lead. Even if you have a landing page, a lot of people think that, by the way, that they should send traffic to a landing page to capture the lead and then try to keep them on that page. That's been the kind of the thought for, decades now as to why you use a landing page in the first place. And it kind of is, but a lot of people are going to want to visit the rest of your website to see who you are and if you check out legitimately wise or reputation wise. And so you don't want to just trap them on the page, because they're not going to, you can't, if you expect them to either not have that or nothing, a lot of people just will say, F you, I'm going to go someplace else. It's not trying to box me in here. So you always want to have an out for them to be able to go to another page. And what we'll routinely find out is at least 10% of the traffic that you're getting from a typical Google Ads campaign that goes to that landing page is going to want to go to the rest of your website to check you out before they turn into a lead. So you're basically going to lose at least 10% of your sales that you're going to upload to Google if you don't carry that Google Click ID in a cookie that will follow that user around, so that when they fill out the form on another page of your website, consequently, that you won't have the Google Click ID there. Therefore, you're going to miss part of your sales data. In some spaces, it's only 10%. Some spaces, it's going to be 20, 30%. Lacking 20 or 30% of your sales data doesn't sound like much, but in the context of how all these ad systems, including Google very much so, it learns how to run ads, and it all being predicated on machine learning now. A keyword isn't a keyword anymore. 20 or 30% less data is the difference between making, on year 5, 3 million a year versus $1 million a year. It compounds, and I just can't stress enough how, if you truly want to bank running Google Ads for your business, you focus on more than anything, and I do mean more than anything up front, than getting the best quality data into your ad account that's possible. And that means not just tracking leads, but tracking sales. And that means getting the Google Click ID regardless of how they're going to respond, through the form, through the phone, and capturing the Google Click ID in a cookie, so that it doesn't matter what page they end up on where they convert, that Google Click ID will be in with your form lead details, and it'll be retrievable later on down the line. With that said, your options now to carry and store the Google Click ID on the user's web browser in the form of a cookie, tracking cookie, are as follows. First of which, here you have as a quicker but more expensive option, paid option, is using Callrail form and call tracking to grab the Google Click ID, because Callrail's system by default is going to drop the cookie on the user's browser for you by default. And so it doesn't matter if they, convert on the first page of your site that they see or visit or the 50th. That Google Click ID will always be there inside Callrail for that particular user. Most people know about Callrail when they use it to track phone calls, and that each phone call, if your phone call came from an ad, you'll be able to see under the timeline the Google Click ID, and that's great and everything. And that'll be there regardless, again, if they called from the initial landing page you took the user to or the 50th page that they visited on your site, because it drops that Google Click ID on the user's browser in the form of a tracking cookie. But what people don't usually know is Callrail has a lot of sick features that you should check into. I didn't even know about them for years, and slowly but surely I figured out you can do more and more and more with it. And one of the things is you can do form tracking. Form tracking to grab the Google Click ID to begin with, because modifying all your contact forms to get the Google Click ID, a lot of times it's a pain in and itself, but then you have to set up the cookie tracking code so that if they visit more than one page, you got the Google Click ID. You can actually activate form tracking on Callrail, which will magically, moving forward, any form that gets filled out on your site will be stored in the form tracking part of your Callrail account, and it'll drop the cookie on the user's browser on the first visit to the site, so that if they don't fill out the form right away on the first page they visit, it'll actually still be there with your form lead like it's supposed to, because it drops the cookie on the user's browser for you. So Callrail, it's a self-contained single solution that if you just implement Callrail with your form tracking, with your call tracking, you don't have to worry about having any additional tracking code on your website to drop a tracking cookie on the user's browser that will capture the Google Click ID on the initial page view on your website, because Callrail will do it for you. So that's the number one way you can do it. The downside of that, of course, being that the form tracking part of Callrail that you would also need to go along with this is that extra $50 a month, which a lot of you guys are just, I can't handle that, but whatever, which is fine. But you're going to spend money now, if you're not a programmer, to get this implemented the manual way, which is the second way you can do this. Google provides its own cookie code to drop on your webpage. So if they visit more than one page on your site, the Google Click ID will still be there inside your form details for your hidden form field that's meant to pick up the Google Click ID. So you could make your own script, by the way, that would do this. And there's other scripts out there, but I would recommend you just go with Google's own script in order to do this. If you Google this literal line here that I have on my whiteboard, set up online conversion imports using Google Click ID, parentheses, GCLID, in parentheses, you will find the article, when you Google that exact line there, that has the exact recommended JavaScript code for you to put on your site to drop a cookie on the user's browser to store the Google Click ID on the user's browser, so that you still have it if they fill out the form on a second, third, fourth page visit on your website. The downside being, of course, you got to get that code, you got to put it on your site, you got to make sure there's no blockages, conflicts, or anything like that, and you run some tests to make sure it works. But the upside is it's free, and it will always be free. That downside as well is one of the downsides of doing custom code and doing all that is you got to keep it updated. Maybe 3 years from now it doesn't work anymore. Whereas if you use Callrail is going to constantly be updating their own code. So if something doesn't work because of a browser update, they've already got you covered. So there's definitely pros and cons here. But anyway, you get to pick your poison here. Which one do you want to do to grab the Google Click ID? But absolutely, you do want to grab the Google Click ID from the user, even if they visit more than one page on the site, because so many people do that before they convert into a lead. Of course, on the Google side, on the Google Click ID side, the call tracking program that you have, the main ones, Callrail and call tracking metrics, are going to drop that. Is going to have a tracking cookie for the user, so that if they call on the second, third, fourth page, it's going to pick up the Google Click ID still for you. Other ones, there's other kind of fringier call tracking programs out there. Just be aware that I want to say not by default that Google Click ID might not be there unless they call from the initial page that the user hits, because like I said, the Google Click ID isn't there after the first page visit to the site. So it's just something to be aware and that you'll have to test. that you yourself, click on an ad, go to the site, visit more than one page, call, see if that Google Click ID is under your call tracking program like it's supposed to be in that scenario. And if it's not, you're obviously going to have to do manual code implementation to make sure it is there, or just obviously switch call tracking providers itself. For the most part, my advice is to you, and I'm not being paid by Callrail here. I'd like to get paid by Callrail, but Callrail is just the call tracking program to use anymore. It's the most reliable as it comes to software, and it is something as mission critical as your damn phone. You don't want to screw around with cheaper systems that may mess up. Callrail is just the gold standard now. I don't know what percentage of market share they have, but it's got to be 30, 40%, 50% of the call tracking market. When it comes to software, marketing software, just go with the top one. Yes, it might be more expensive, but it's not going to mess up, and it's going to stay updated. Stuff like what it takes to stay current with what current web browsers and how they work. And like I was saying before, that maybe the web browser doesn't allow you to drop the cookie as easily as it did before. The stuff has to change. You know that they're going to stay abreast of this because they have the revenue and the funding to keep the software running like it's supposed to, instead of waiting for users to bitch and then fix things after the fact. And then as a result of that, lose a bunch of tracking data. Your ads go completely off into left field because it's not seeing tracking data that it used to see, which is actually what happens. The number one way to lose results on your ad account is to have your tracking just suddenly break or only intermittently pick up data, which intermittent tracking you're the worst one, because it's easy to see when something's showing zero conversion as far as a conversion goal. When it's only showing half the data, that's when you're really effed, because it's not obvious that anything's broken, and it could be months before you even figure out something as convoluted as, your cookie code. It's supposed to grab the Google Click ID and so you can have that Google Click ID be there for users that visit multiple pages on your site. It's just not there anymore. And therefore you lost 3 months worth of conversion tracking, sales tracking, offline sales tracking data, because the call tracking program didn't keep abreast of certain things that were going on with web browsers, if you will. Anyway, with all that said, if you have any questions, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. You can ask me any ad-related question that you'd like, and I'll try my best to answer it using my 15 years of ad and marketing experience to try to put you on the right track with what you're doing as best as I can, just as a thank you for watching the channel and helping the channel grow. If you are going to pay attention to any channel and subscribe to any channel that'll help you and give you the guidance you need to make millions of dollars a year running ads for your business, this is the channel you want to subscribe to for that already, as I promise you, you're not going to find better quality information about that exact topic, as the information I'm giving you on this channel is coming from somebody who manages dozens of ad accounts, specifically just testing strategy, understanding what strategies work, what doesn't work. Most of the information you're going to find on YouTube and as well as on the web is from people selling courses or making money off of ad revenue. They're not really helping clients do anything or run ads. They're just talking and speculating, which is not obvious to people by default, which is why I keep bringing this up on this channel all the time. You need somebody who's actually running ads 40 hours a week and then just sharing the anecdotes on the side in order to have anything that's even helpful that'll actually help you make more money. And that's what you're getting on this channel with me. 40 hours a week, I just manage ads and I share what is working and not working on the side for you and with this channel. So therefore, you should subscribe, and you should subscribe right now already. If you like the channel, I also have a blog that you can find over at guaranteedppc.com/blog. Blog has step-by-step strategies that we're using to specifically guarantee results for our clients, certain bolt-on things that will almost always work for a typical company, with screenshots, with the step-by-step instructions. If you like the channel, you'll love the blog as well. Most people do. So you should also check that out. If you're looking for somebody to just do all the heavy lifting for you to get the results with the ads using these strategies I talk about on this channel, this is exactly what I do for clients at our agency. And with that, we're the only ad agency out there, or PPC agency, that guarantees results for their clients without taking fees and without delivering on our promises. That is, we'll promise to give you so much of a lift in profitability up front. If we don't get it for you, there's no fee. And that there's no catch per se to that, other than the fact that we got to know we can get great results for you up front Otherwise, we're not going to take you on as a client. But if you want to see if we can work together, reach out to me at my agency at guaranteedppc.com, and I'll look over your stuff, give you a free assessment, and see what kind of results we could potentially get for you if we can. As a side though, if you're not looking to work with an ad agency like ours and you want to just manage your own ads, if we've worked in your niche market before, and we've worked in over 100 niche markets in the last 10 years, you can use the exact winning ads, landing pages, campaign templates that we've developed for your market already in a different geographic area and just copy paste the success we're having into your own ad account and sidestep all the years it took us to figure out what works exactly the best in your market, with none of the work and none of the, more so the money that it took to figure out what works the best in your market. We can tell you the results you would get with our template up front before even purchasing the template, so you would know what you stand to gain up front, and it would be silly to figure out all that same stuff for yourself when you didn't have to. We got people using these templates, they work so good, to start other businesses, whether they're selling product, starting lead generation and lead selling businesses, which we've had several people do now using the templates that work so well to sell leads at a rock bottom cost in a number of different markets. So, and then with that, if you're interested in any of those opportunities, you can also reach out to me at my firm at guaranteedppc.com. But I'll wrap everything up with that. Hopefully you made the information on this video made sense to you, and I'll see you on the next one. See you later.